Test, words, test words. I think we should be live, but let's find out by seeing if people say anything. I'm also a little bit far away from the microphone. There we go. Hello, everybody. How do we all do? I'm hoping incredibly well. But Leeds United have a little bit more news surrounding them, as we always do. It wouldn't be Leeds if there wasn't quite a significant amount of news that is both good and bad and ugly, because that's what we tend to do. So, in this stream, I'm going to take a little bit of a deep dive through all that kind of stuff. Maybe a little bit of a chat about the England match last night, if people are feeling it. A little bit of chat about the match against Argentina, which will be coming up in the near future. And ultimately getting a sort of idea about where we are going forward. Also, I've just seen that the Swansea match was 6 years ago, which is quite nice. It feels like longer, but that's because Leeds have been genuinely insane for quite some time. Also, I got a really itchy face. Having a house full of pets, it's madness. And a baby. God damn it. Anyway, good evening, Kieran Doyle. I hope you're doing pretty well. Good evening, Danny. Danny is responsible for one of the bits of news that we'll be discussing as well, which is quite fun. But first of all, we're going to talk about the little bit of news that has been floating about around centre-back, specifically being the stuff that was discussed by Andrea earlier in the day. Andrea Russo, well known by a significant proportion of the Leeds United community because he is a fantastic chap, has said that according to today's print edition of Tutto Sport, the nationwide newspaper based in Turin, hence a fairly damn good source for this specific little bit and bob, Torino and Leeds, you see this is why Turin sort of fits, will have a meeting tomorrow regarding Perri, who has already given his green light to a move under the mole from Yorkshire. I don't know what under the mole means, but that is sort of implying that Lucas Perri is already sort of encouraging the idea of a move away from Leeds United. Lucas Perry is already in a situation where it's like, well, if an offer comes in, I don't see any particular reason to not take it, which is an odd situation to be in, to be completely honest with you, but it's a fairly significant one, because it means that now, in addition to Darlow having already gone, we've got a goalkeeper that has already given the idea that he, again with the itchy nose, I got pet hair on my snodge. It's really annoying. This is your fault, buddy. This is a sign that we definitely need at least one, probably two goalkeepers. Because if we're in a situation where Lucas Perry also goes, oh shit, it's time to move fast. And that was also matched by a little bit more news from Andrea, who said that on Suzuki, instead, a brief update was given by Moretto on Fabrizio's Italian channel. Newcastle have now shown interest too, so that fuels even more of the will of Parma to wait for a bidding war to raise the value of any potential fee. Which is very, very significant, because it means that the sort of the race, the showdown, the fight, whatever you want to call it, for Zion Suzuki has just gotten more and more and more difficult. Like, the fact that things keep escalating and escalating in terms of that conversation means that more clubs are being sort of dragged into its orbit, and the more clubs that are dragged into its orbit, the more trouble we are potentially in. And another prospective club that is reportedly apparently part of the conversation, which confuses me a little bit, but I'm going to cover it anyway, because if I didn't, I would feel like I was being a little bit dishonest. And this is, again, thank you to Danny in the chat, around PSG, because apparently PSG have eyed Parma's goalkeeper Zion Suzuki as part of their plan to strengthen the squad in the medium term. This one, I think, is legitimately insane, for reasons that I will get into once I have read through the article. But PSG reportedly interested in Zion Suzuki with a view to a summer transfer, according to La Gazzetta dello Sport. Again, Italian outlet. Italian outlets are mainly where we're going to be getting the news for Zion Suzuki stuff, because Italian clubs tend to be significantly leakier than especially Leeds United, but more information will come out of that end, I believe. Having enjoyed a good World Cup, the Newark, New Jersey-born player also distinguished himself between the post for the Giallo Blue, who I'm assuming are Parma. Last season, though his playing time was reduced due to a hand injury, he made 22 appearances, kept 6 clean sheets. He's also reported to be on the radar of Aston Villa, which is a little bit spooky, who believe that Emi Martinez is on the way out, which, again, a little bit spooky, because they will be looking at a genuine world-class goalkeeper. And Leeds United. Hey! This is like that thing where you'll be watching the telly, and even though bad things are happening and you're losing 7-0, at least you've seen your mum in the stands or something. The 23-year-old could therefore leave Emilia-Romagna for a fee of around 35 million euros, which is fairly significant, but this is where the conversation around a potential bidding war kicks in. A sum will easily suit Parma, despite the fact that his contract ties him to a club until 2030, which means they're not necessarily under any sort of stress to sell. This is where it gets a little bit confusing, though, because this is why I think PSG aren't actually a part of this specific race. I think this is where there's a little bit more posturing. It says, for PSG, the Nippon... Now, this is weird, because Nippon is the name of Japan, so I don't know if that counts as the nationality at the same time, but just say the Japanese player. I don't know. Having written articles like this before, I feel like the Nippon is the weirdest way you could have possibly phrased that. It smells a bit AI. So do the M dashes, to be fair, but represents a perfect transfer opportunity as part of their plan to strengthen the squad in the medium term, that being over the next couple of years. Despite, and this is where it falls into territory of this is where I think it could be bollocks, the presence of Matvei Safonov, who is a genuinely very, very good goalkeeper and played fairly consistently for PSG last season. Lucas Chevalier, who again, a very, very good keeper, and therefore you've got two goalkeepers that are in sort of their early prime, which is the same sort of territory as Suzuki. And the recent arrival of young Italian Alessandro Longoni. Now, if you are a goalkeeper in this kind of situation, like the situation that Suzuki is in, and you know you've got interest from Juventus, who are playing European football, I believe, Aston Villa, who I believe are playing European football, Newcastle, who fairly consistently play European football and have a shitload of cash to throw everywhere they want, and now for some reason PSG, the club that you're going to go to is a club that is actually going to actually play you, which is the sort of important part of this early stage of a goalkeeper's career. If you're a 23-year-old goalkeeper, you're not going to go and be at least third in line between Safonov and Chevalier, and then Longoni will be below you in the pecking order, presumably, but then again, you don't know what the sort of management is going to be like with PSG, which I think wipes PSG out of the conversation. I think PSG are there just to have a big name to go, look, here's a club with a massive budget, and therefore they would be able to sign your target player, so act fast, a sort of hint to Leeds and Villa and whoever else that we might want to get a little bit of a shift on. However, I don't think it would be a good idea to get a little bit of a shift on in this specific conversation, because honestly, personally, this doesn't scream legitimacy, in my opinion. I don't think PSG are actually going to be that hugely interested in signing Suzuki. It's one that could, in theory, be on point, but it doesn't feel it. And I know that saying that I don't feel it is like, it's not a source and it's nothing like that, but I think the idea of PSG being in that conversation is nonsense, to be completely honest with you. Maybe, I don't know. On this one, Wensworld, there might be, in the event that Perry leaves. I would happily back Perry in the event that he sticks around, but there is a fairly significant likelihood that he doesn't stick around, and that makes things incredibly complicated, because Leeds United reportedly having talks with Torino tomorrow means that, okay, things are potentially speeding up with a move for Lucas Perry, so that could get very, very damaging, and Twitter's not going to be fun for a while, is the way that I'm going to put that, because Jesus Christ, we know what Twitter can be like a hell of a lot of the time. What's Ramsdale coming? I think we're smarter than getting Ramsdale. I would hope that we are smarter than getting Ramsdale, because we tend to be quite good at finding decent targets from across the continent. It tends to be stretch goal player, which in this case would be Suzuki, would be... What's your name? What's the centre-back's name? I'm going to say Muharemovic, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Let's have a Google. Give me Muharemovic. Tell me that I'm right. Muharemovic, he's done it. Yes. It tends to be a case of going for someone like a Muharemovic, who is a very, very valuable footballer. But some might look at him and go, well, that's a little bit beyond what we can do, and then we'll just go to the next player on the list. That's what Suzuki feels like. Suzuki feels like the top of the list because he's a ridiculously good goalkeeper, and we know that we can be in that conversation. Muharemovic feels like the very, very top of that conversation and a player that is gettable. So if that doesn't work out, we just go to number 2, and that's no real reason to panic. Like, in the event that he goes to Aston Villa, fine, he wants some Champions League football. It's whatever. But yeah, for me, a Perry loan has to come with an obligation to buy. This also implies Farke doesn't trust Perry. All 49ers don't do business like this. Will be looking elsewhere for a ball-playing goalkeeper. I think the conversation with Perry is more likely to be a case of, again, if he goes, he probably goes permanently. But how do I words? Right, the initial signing of Perry wasn't what was planned by either the 49ers or Daniel Farke. The initial signing of Perry was Farke had his ideal target, the 49ers had their ideal target, and then Perry popped along when these two were having a conversation with each other going, well, do we want this one? Do we want this one? I don't know. Do you want this one? Why do you want that one? And then Lucas Perry comes along at a relatively affordable price because Lyon are in absolute financial shambles, and is a move that just makes us a little bit of sense, to be honest. So, yeah. But I think an exit alone is going to be a bad call. Ideally, it isn't that. And if it is a loan, it's a loan with, here's a very, very clear route to an exit, whether that is an obligation to sign him no matter what, or an obligation to sign him in the event that they stay up, qualify for Europe, whatever. But I think that's going to be fairly important. If you want a cheap keeper who'll cost $1 million or less, look to Rocco Rios Novo, currently on the bench for Miami FC, but has won 2 championships, both of which ended in penalties. No, because I think if you're signing a goalkeeper based on penalties, then you've already lost your mind. Because realistically, how many penalty shootouts does your club play throughout a season? Maybe 1 or 2. It's not going to be a thing that happens too much. I think the M-Means article was written by, or summarised by AA, and I've said just Italian propaganda to drive pieces up. I kind of agree with that take, to be honest. I wouldn't say necessarily written by AI because it was quite good at getting actual details down, but it does feel like it was written by a person, put through an AI to be like, can you snazz this up a little bit, which means that sometimes you're going to lose some facts, and then it turns into what it is at the end, which is an AI article. I don't like those, to be honest with you. No to any loans. Are you meaning loans in or loans out? Because that's where it gets complicated. Because some people are in favour of a loan in because their specific idea of the loan in is James Trafford. But loans out, I definitely agree, not a good shout if it's a player that is potentially on the way permanently. For some reason, another club has signed Mason Greenwood, which is bizarre. For 40 million euros. Right, okay. Madness. Would you be happy for Ramsdale to come in as second choice? I wouldn't see the point of Ramsdale coming in as second choice, to be honest. No, not for me. Where are we with Suzuki? Suzuki is still under discussion. I imagine he's still on his hollybobs after the World Cup, which is genuinely completely fine. That's going to be normal. Elvedi, again, literally just got knocked out of the World Cup, so I imagine there's not going to be progress on that one for a little while now. But things, again, are consistently looking reasonable on the Elvedi front, with us apparently being at the front of the queue for him. New guy midfielder. I don't know who you mean by new guy midfielder. Unless it's Shea Charles. I don't know, but let me know. And Diamande. Diamande seems like a very, very probably not. Usman Diamande, right? Is it Usman Diamande? Yes. If I search news, there's not. Fuck me. Okay, there was word of us plotting a £43 million bid. There is also word of an €80 million release clause. So, Diamande feels like he's beyond stretch goal for me. I think that's a price that we wouldn't necessarily ever be looking at, because that's not the kind of money that the 49ers throw at individual players. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by the new guy midfielder, but I'm going to take a floating guess and say Shea Charles, and the last we heard was that it's probably going to be this weekend-ish that we can expect a response. But if that doesn't happen, then it's going to keep on rolling on and on and on, and they're going to do their best to build up some more interest, which is annoying, to be honest with you. Where are we now? In the comments. Just call it Just call them Tariq, it's easier. No, I will stick with Muharemovic because I'm proud of the fact that I've got the pronunciation down. If you were able to just, like, off the dome, bang, Muharemovic, you absolutely would. And in the event that he signs, it's going to be good to have his surname worked out anyway. So I'm going to keep doing that. I think we're more likely to sign Derby's goalkeeper. Maybe. I don't know, to be honest with you. Again, he feels like he is a step below where we're at in terms of goalkeeping options, which is fine, to be honest with you, but I don't. Suzuki's already turned us down. I don't think he necessarily turned us down permanently, though. I think it was a case of early in the window he went, and is going to wait it out to see what other offers he gets, which makes sense, because if you're Zion Suzuki and you are potentially looking at a raft of offers that might come in for you at some point in the future, with several of them offering you European football and very, very high wages, you're not going to go, but Leeds were here first. Like, that's realistically not how this is going to work. It's going to be a case of Suzuki will want whatever offers him the best, both playing and financial offer, and I feel like for him to have picked Leeds this early in the window would show that he was a little bit daft, to be honest with you. Like, he can wait it out, he can stick around at Parma, he can do whatever, but I wouldn't call it a permanent turn down that we've had from him at the very least. Sunderland offered Muharemovic a 5-year contract at €3.5 million euros a year, and preferring an official bid. Bournemouth offered €35 million. Sassuolo want 40, not coming to Leeds at that price. If that's true, then maybe that's the case, but we'll find out. Every club and scouting team have a weakness somewhere, maybe as his goalies. It's arguably left backs, to be honest with you. Like, if you have a look at our current left back options, it's Gudmundsson, and then maybe Justin fills in. And before that, it was Firpo, and maybe Strauch goes to left back. So it's a problem position, but I think the bigger problem position is definitely left back, in my opinion. But I don't know. It's a little bit weird. Why would Leeds be talking to Torino tomorrow if they don't already have really good options ready to go? The 49ers are professionals. Yes, which tells me that said options are potentially being discussed behind the scenes. We are not going to be approaching this season without any goalkeepers. I am 100% certain of that. It's just going to be a case of, and then we will fill the gap back up. It's just if someone's coming in for Lucas Perry with a bid that is profit for us, that feels like it makes a lot of sense. Like, as much as I like Lucas Perry, that is a sale that I would also probably make, purely based on the fact that, well, if we're not necessarily going to use him, then potentially earns us 20 million quid. Go for it. We'll see. Derby goalkeeper Swedish represent. He's a solid keeper, but I don't know how solid he is because I've not seen that much of him. Getting sold on board of this window with it so far. Billion rumours, nothing concrete. Yeah, this is why I've sort of been struggling, because I like to do a video a day, and if possible, I like to also do a stream a day. If I can't do a video, then I will do a stream. But you get to the point of, I don't want to be the person that talks about complete bollocks. I don't want to see a rumour and go, well, that's obviously not true, but I'm going to do a video on it anyway, because that doesn't feel like that's necessarily right. That feels like it's naturally misleading more than anything. And at the end of the day, people who watch you will not trust you if you end up just spouting whatever about whatever. It's not exactly the best way to go. Which means that this window has been, here's a loose link, here's a loose link, here's a loose link, and at like 2 in the morning after a work shift, I'll be looking at it like, I want to do a video, but at the same time, this is all a bunch of nothing. But I don't want to report a bunch of nothing, because if I do and then it turns out to be a bunch of nothing, then everyone will be like, well, why did you report a bunch of nothing? So yeah, a lot of stories at this stage are very loosey-goosey, which is not great for content creators. It's great for some who are just like, yeah, I'm going to jump on absolutely everything, but it's not great for a lot of content creators. Oh, well, that's fine. We'll work it out. It's okay. May we see the seagulls? No, because they're out the window, and if I showed you out the window, I would be showing you where I live, and I don't trust the internet quite that much. Evening, Joe from India. Good evening, Balavane8365. Benoit Badiashile will be a good replacement for Stroke. Bitshabu from Leipzig, and Gorna Duath Moritz Kjærgaard from Salzburg will be a future investment. That's not a bad shout, to be honest. Kjærgaard's quite good. But I think, I don't know, there's a lot of different directions that we can take it. And if we end up taking it in the right direction, we can be very, very happy. But there is the worry that we end up signing completely the wrong player, which is not good, to be honest with you. So I think it's going to be one that we're quite careful about. This is clearly effortsome French. Effortless French. This is one of those where I fully agree with you. I've seen a little bit of Noah Archibolu, and I very, very, very genuinely really like him. I watched a few of his matches last season for work, and every time I saw him, I was like, this guy's really impressive. The fact that there is discussion around him moving means that it is a common sense one for us to at the very least look at and ideally make that move properly. Because if we don't, that's a mistake. If he is genuinely going for about 20 million, then it's a mistake if we don't go for him, in my opinion. Ekram Connor, Leeds United have strong interest in Yunus Musa. Connor is a wobbly one, to be honest with you. He doesn't tend to be on point. Like, I'll have a sniff around other sources, but I don't know. Let's have a scroll down his Twitter, shall we? Wow, he's really on the ball. 2 hours ago, he reported that Villa are looking at Zion Suzuki. No. No way, are they? Couldn't have known that one. Right, I'm just going to scroll down quite a lot on his Twitter, and then I'll just Control F and search for the word Leeds. There we go. I've gone to the 11th. Leeds. Where's the third one? Leeds offer. No, I'm not seeing it. I'm not convinced that that's actually there. I mean, there's 3. There's not 3. There's like 2. Whatever. Yeah, he's not the most reliable anyway. So I think we should sign Joe Blackburn for our new goalkeeper. Here's good at catching the ball. Right. This is something that you all know has annoyed me for a very long time, right? And it's specifically around goalkeeping technique and the way that a lot of people, when it comes to goalkeepers, are like, why are you punching the ball? Why do you not simply catch it? And every single time I've said, because if you catch it, sometimes it goes bad. And if you catch it and it goes bad, you are in deep trouble. And I've got some fucking evidence. I've got some evidence now. I've got proof of my claims, right? You want to know the proof of my claims? Right, hang on. So, my proof is as follows. England match from the other day. Right? Morgan Rogers. Hold on, I'm going to have to play it for a second and then... There we go. Morgan Rogers, how's it go? At this point, everyone's going to be screaming, keeper, catch it. He tries to catch it, but guess what? It comes loose. And it comes loose to Jude Bellingham, who fires it home. So next time someone asks you the question of why don't goalkeepers catch the ball so much? Why do they punch it clear into various areas? That's why. Purely because when it doesn't come in and stick, it screws you up. Which, obviously, not great. Like, you end up losing World Cups if you try and catch the ball. That's what I'm going to go with. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, right, where were we? I was busy complaining about goalkeeping technique. Anyway, also I can't stream for too long because I need to feed a baby in a few minutes. If Perri leaves for a Euro club, it'll be on loan, so I can't see Leeds letting go. It might be permanent. I know a lot of people say that like European clubs don't necessarily have the cash, but that feels like a big sort of generalisation. No, I'm surprisingly not in Ibiza. Ekram Connor has a 0 hit rate regarding Leeds. It is a stinky hit rate, to be fair. Suzuki's a great shot stopper, but punches and parries the ball out a lot in the box. Could be risky in the Premier keeper. Joe, thoughts on Suzuki style? I genuinely answered that question by accident. I think I have. Right, yeah, that's why. I don't mind players that punch the ball as goalkeepers because a significant proportion of the time punching the ball is the safer thing to do. It gets the ball out of the way and it makes sure that you're not going to concede a goal in those situations, which is ultimately kind of good for you. But yeah, parrying and punching, if you do it into the right areas, is typically the better approach, I think. Where were we? Joe, I was watching the Newcastle Fan TV podcast earlier and they stated that Newcastle were favourites to get Suzuki. I don't know if they're favourites. The first time I've seen them linked was earlier today, so it'd be very, very bold of them to go, we're in the race now, and by the way, we're winning. It'd be very Newcastle, though, wouldn't it? The fact that Newcastle are kind of like, no, we're special, actually, and you should listen to all of our oil money because that makes us unique. No, it doesn't make you unique. It just makes you an over-moneyed club with thoughts above your station. You still finished... Where did they finish last season? Premier League 25-26. Let's have a look. Yeah, you still finished 12th at the end of the day. You're also not offering European football, so they don't really have a particular advantage over us. And they've lost Bruno Guimaraes. Anyway, Four Candles, you keep doing this thing where you're bitching and moaning and whining. You did the same bitching and moaning and whining last year and the year before, and in the last 2 years, we got promoted and we comfortably stayed in the league. It's getting boring now. Stop it. Most keepers are trying to punch the ball. They are indeed. Heard about Norwich wanting Dan James. Be great if we can get 10 million for him. I think that would count as profit. But it wouldn't be a bad move for us, to be honest. I think him moving on is one that makes a little bit of sense right now. Where were we? I thought all top goalkeeping coaches tell the goalies to punch, not catch. Yes, typically, recently, that is what happens. It's pass on Nyland as backup goalkeeper after that one. I don't know. If he was to punch the ball clear, then maybe it'd be okay. Hi, Joe. Love your show, top man. Thank you very much, Ivan. Or Ellis. Or is it Ellis Ivan? Or is it Ivan Ellis? This is a good question. These are all the big questions. Anyway, I'm going to finish the stream in a moment's time. If anyone's got any questions or anything to throw in my general direction, do so now, before I finish up the stream, because I've got to give some food to a baby. Because she eats because she's a baby. They do that. It's weird, I know. They never give you a manual, but it turns out they sleep lots, they poop lots, they eat lots. So between all that, you end up doing some things. I don't know. The person who reported DJ to Norwich is in the northeast. What you got to do with Norwich? I don't know. But you can have links to things. I've got links to various bits and bobs. I can give weird bits of news about some clubs that I've never been anywhere near. But I don't, because that's not what this is for. Dan James' book value is more than 10 million would take a loss. I don't know if we necessarily would. Hold on. Dan James, Leeds United. Transfer. Right, joined Leeds in 2021 for 25 million. How long was that contract? 5-year contract. Has he renewed his contract? Probably. But yeah, his book value will be way less than 10 million now. When did he renew his contract? Either way, 10 million will be a profit. So he signed a new contract last season. Brilliant. So he would have had 4 years on the original contract out of 5, which means his book value would have dropped to 5 million. At which point he would have signed a 4-year deal. And he's had 1 year of that, which means his book value should be £3.75 million. So 10 million would be a big profit. At least on book value, but book value is weird, confusing. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there because I am going to go feed a baby. If you enjoyed the stream, please pop a like on it. I keep forgetting to ask people to like the stream, which means that it keeps coming out with absolutely shit all likes. So if you guys could just do that, that'd be lovely. How's the little one? She is learning to crawl. Well, she's learned to crawl. She's learning to stand up, and increasingly using cushions as sort of like walkers. So she'll hold onto them and just push them across the room, and that's terrifying because then she potentially falls one way or the other, which is not good. But anyway, pop a like on the stream. Subscribe if you haven't, that'd be massively appreciated. Even become a channel member, that's lovely too. We're very, very close to 7,800 subscribers, so that'd be spectacular. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all later. Toodaloo, mi amigos.